My name is JJ. I am your community and education lead here at Softr. I'm joined by my co-host, Patrick. Patrick, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. For those
Yes.
that don't already know you, you're famous already in the
No, no, I don't know about famous. Yeah,
community.
no, I'm customer success manager here at Softr, so I do a lot of our like business and enterprise customer stuff as well.
Awesome. For those tuning in, really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and listen to this today. We're going to go over a lot of important topics. So whether you're a pro or you're a beginner just starting out, this is a great session for you. Protecting your users' data is the most important thing, whether you're building your first app or app for your 20th client. It's a really important thing. And luckily, Software has a tremendous amount of options that you can use to make it really easy to do this for your applications. So this will be recorded. We will send you a copy of the recording afterwards for signing up. We'll also post it on YouTube. But along the way, for those joining us, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to let us know what you're hoping to get out of this event. Feel free to let us know what kind of events we should do in the future. And then in just a minute or so, we'll get started with the event today. We're going to be getting started with a project management tool. We're going to be showing you the different user roles that they've set up in the database, then going over to Software and checking out how we've set those up in Software, and then going through this app in Software and laying these protections at the visibility level, the data level, the action level, and then the global level as well. And we'll talk about the pros and cons for all of those and why they all work together to create a really awesome protected app for you and your users. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Patrick's also going to put up a poll to just gauge what kind of apps you guys are building. Oh, the poll's already up. So we have a couple coming in. That's great. Otherwise, again, I'm JJ. This is Patrick. So, Patrick, are you ready? Should we just get right into it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be awesome.
Awesome. All right. So, I'm going to bring my screen up. The first thing that we're going to be looking at, hello from Hamburg. Feel free to put in your location where you guys are coming from. I'm in New York. Patrick, where are you located?
I'm in South Carolina, East Coast of the US.
Very good. Awesome. Welcome, Mateo. Great to see you here. Thanks for joining. Great. Hello from Canada, from Peru. Love it. So as you guys are seeing on the screen right now, we are in an Airtable base. All right. We are in the table called team, which is where we're housing our users. And we have a couple of different roles here. And for the roles, we're using a single select field, and we have a manager and employee. So very, very basic. We always have these roles on our user table because it allows us to figure out what kind of a user this is. All right. And so when we have these roles, we can head over to our software application and create these user groups. And so in order to get there, you go to users. Within users, you go to user groups, and then you can create these different groups. Now, these are essentially the foundation for everything else that we do in our software application. And there's a lot of other ways that you can use this. You can use admin, you can use different types of levels and permissions. And simply put, I mean, an employee permission can maybe access certain things, whereas the manager permission can access maybe all the things. Um, some best practices for when you're planning your application is to have a document and to go over with, if you're building it for one person or for a team, to list out the permissions that you're going to be using and to say, okay, admin can view these pages, can do these actions kind of thing. Whereas a manager can only do these actions and view these pages. And then an employee can only view their data, right? So by clearly mapping this out ahead of time, it allows you to head into this build with a more organized way, right? Kelsey, soft and newbie, thank you for tuning in. Welcome. You're in the right place. So we have these different types of user roles, right? And Patrick, is there anything that I'm missing yet for the way that you think about your user groups or how you like to go about planning this?
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind. One is that the user groups you can define these on based on a variety of conditions, which JJ will probably get into in just a minute. But you don't have to necessarily use a single select field. You can really use any field in a software app to determine, uh, the conditions of a user group. Um, yeah, like I'm probably jumping the gun. You're probably going to go over that, I'm guessing.
No, that's great.
Um,
That's a good point.
but then, yeah, the second thing is that by default, you kind of have two user groups already. that you can kind of use. One is logged in user and the other one is non-logged in user. And these user groups that JJ is doing are essentially like even more customizable options that you can just create yourself to control user flows through your app.
Really, really good point, pointed that out. You kind of forget all the power that you have with Software in that
Mm.
way. It's simple to keep it simple with employee and manager, but if you need to get more than that, you can, and we give you that full flexibility. So you can see here, I'm in my user group editor, and I'm able to create these expressions for those appropriately. Awesome. Yes, Ma, we are going to show you how a user can see just their own records. Don't worry, we're definitely going to get that there in this build. So we have these two groups set up. All right. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over to our project listing page. So we're going to go over to our projects. Let's see. Where are you? Project. It's home. Here we are. It's our project listing page. All right. And so if you look over here on the left-hand side, you can scroll over this and you can see right away who is able to see this block, right? And so this indicator tells us that logged in users can see this block. And so if anyone tries to access this page and they're not logged in, they won't be able to see it. So that's our first level of protection or visibility right there. But the next thing that we want to do is we want to click on the block and we want to go down to our conditional filters. And right away, we see that there are no limitations right now. So what this tells us is that everybody that can view this block can see all of the projects listed. All right. And so sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. One example of this being bad would be, well, what if you have multiple companies? You want to make sure that they are only seeing the projects associated to their company, not all of your users' company. Patrick, any other suggestions that you might want to add in here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty common use case, I think, for like displaying only projects that a person is assigned to or things like that. And like you kind of highlighted it earlier, the structure of your database is critically important for enabling this functionality in software as well. How you structure your Airtable base will very much determine what you're able to do inside of your software. So like in the case that you just mentioned, JJ, of like companies, a project would need to be lit to maybe need to be linked to a company. And I think your Airtable base even has that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have that yet. We have on the project table, we have the project owner, but we don't actually have the company in here, which we could at any point, right? But because we don't have the company in here, we wouldn't be able to restrict it in that way yet,
Mm,
right?
right. Yeah. So like how like let's say that we wanted to do that. What would be like the steps that somebody might take to do like a company?
Yeah. So we would go and add a new table for that. And we would link it to another, is it the, I don't think this, I don't think they have a company record here in this sense, but I do have a good example that we can show for the tasks one on the next page. So why don't we come back to this?
Yeah,
Sound good?
it sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So on this project page, we see that everything is being shown. Okay. Well, let's head on over to our task list page. And on the task list page, we have two different views here. And this kind of tells us right away how the user has gone about, the developer has gone about creating this type of view. And so we look over here, we see that this is a logged in users can see this. But in this sense, this is just for my tasks, right? So only want to show my tasks, the tasks that belong to the logged in user. All right. And so if we look over into our Airtable database on the projects tab, we do have that already built into our database schema, which is the task assigning emails. We have these emails listed, and this is allowing us to say or pull in the tasks that are assigned to me, right? And so by using this table here, we can go back into our software database and apply this conditional logic. And for this, what we would say is the task assigning email is any of the logged in user's email. All right. Does that look right to you, Patrick?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
All right. Excellent. And so what this is going to be able to get us now is that this my task is only going to show the tasks that are assigned to the logged in user's email and no other tasks. But this doesn't complete the full cycle. What we also need to do is we need to go over to our visibility and adjust this as well. So if you are an employee, you want to only see your tasks, right? And this is just something that we as developers are setting up. You can make your own rules. There is no right or wrong here. But in this case, what we would do is we'd say the employee can see this tab. Okay. And then down here, we'll say, okay, all tasks, what does this belong to? Well, we can go to visibility and we could say only the manager can see this block, right? Because the manager has visibility into all of the tasks that are happening. And because of such, we're not filtering that out. We're showing them all the tasks. But then over here, my tasks, this is being filtered out to only the employee that has access to those tasks and thus can only see it that way. It's a mouthful, but
Yeah. So Andrew has a question. He says, how can block view permissions, and I'll mark this as a question and bring it up for everybody. Um, how can block view permissions based on user groups be based on connections between users? For instance, I'm friends with JJ, so I can view JJ's private posts and public posts. I'm not friends with Andrea, so I can't view her private posts, but I could view her public posts. Is that done with emails that you're showing with disability? A bit new to this all. Um, I can actually probably address that. So yeah, this is definitely possible. And I think like what you would see here is a very similar kind of structure, except JJ, if you can go back to the Airtable base real quick.
yep,
Um, instead of linking like a project to a user, you would actually create a link user to user, and then you would name the field very specifically, right? So instead of projects and tasks being linked together, you would actually just link users and users together. And anytime a person is a friend of a user, you would add them to each other's records, right? So that both of those records are kind of linked together. And that would actually allow you it's actually much easier with followers if you do it like follower following kind of thing. Um, but essentially, who is a user of, or who is a friend of Judith? We would just link to another record in this user's table. And I think JJ's gonna demonstrate that. So,
yep,
like, if Rose Jane is friends with Billy, we would just, create a linked record to Billy there, right? And you could do the same thing for Billy in reverse, right? So like Billy, if he's also following Rose, then or is also friends with Rose, then you would add Rose to his kind of record there. And you can actually do this inside of Softr as well. Like, when a person clicks a follow button, you could initiate an update or an edit to that user's record that says, hey, add whoever's logged in to this user, right, as a
yep.
friend. And so that's kind of like a very basic kind of way that you would be able to do that, I think.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time to give us a question, Andrew. Awesome. So we are continuing on with this example for projects, and we have my tasks, and we now have all tasks. And a good way to test this, of course, is to head on over to the preview, and we're going to view as certain people. So we know that as a manager, you can see all tasks. Okay. So let's make sure that the my task block is gone and it's gone, which is appropriate. So this is working well for a manager. But now let's test it from the employee view and see if we got that right. And now my task as the employee, and we're all set up as well. We only see a couple tasks compared to the all task at the manager level. Okay. So this is really good. And these two protections at the conditional filter level and the visibility level are good, but it's not going to fully protect you. All right. And so what I mean by that is just because you have these conditional filters here, this is a appropriate server filter and this will keep data out for this block. But there may be other areas in the application that you need to secure and to make sure that, the task or the employee only sees the tasks related to to that employee, right? And that's where global data restrictions come into play. And so if we go into global data restrictions here, what we can do is we can apply a new restriction. Okay. And this restriction would pull from our Airtable base, and we're pulling from our events, project management right there. We're pulling from our, let's see, I think this is going to be our projects.
Hmm.
All right. And now we want to create a new view restriction. And this view restriction would essentially be that the task assigning emails contains the logged in user's email. And so, what this is telling us by setting this up at the employee level is that no matter what, whether you place those conditional filters on your data source or not, software is only going to allow the tasks that belong to the logged in user's email to show everywhere in your application. So this saves you a lot of time, right? And it's a new feature of global data restrictions, and not many people are using it yet, but it is absolutely the best practice and the safest way to restrict your data at the global level, right? Without something like this, there would be the potential where you could have a drop down, and that drop down could expose more data than you might be aware of because you didn't use this global data restriction. And even though you added the conditional filters elsewhere, the data could still leak through and maybe drop downs or search fields or other places in your app. But by using this global data restriction with just this one rule, it will automatically take care of it everywhere in your application. So it makes it so much easier to use.
Yeah, it's so fast to enable this, as opposed to like going block by block. Like, I'm sure
Exactly.
you've done this, JJ.
And
Like,
maybe you miss a block,
yeah,
it's just
exactly.
this is just this is the way to do it. This is what professional app builders do, and I'm so glad that we have it here too because it shows how flexible and powerful we are, but still simple that is, right? And so you can set these restrictions at the view, the create, the edit, and the delete level, and we call that CRUD, right? Create, edit, create, read, update, delete. And so you could set that at any level, allowing each of your user permissions to maybe access, to be able to delete things or to be able to create things, etc. Right? There's one last thing that I want to touch on in this template, Patrick, before we move on over to
Mhm.
something else. And so that will be located on the project detail page. And so project details over here. And the last thing that I want to touch on is the ability to add a task, right? And so we've talked on the source for the conditional filters here, so we can limit that data. We've talked on visibility, who can see this, but now let's talk about action level visibility. And so this add task button right now, if we navigate right into the button visibility, we can choose who actually can add a new task, right? And so in this case, we could say logged in users. And then from logged in users, we should be able to say the employee or the manager level, right? And so let's just say only managers have visibility into this add task and have then the ability to add a new task. Employees can also only view tasks, they can't add new tasks, right? So that kind of completes our layer of visibility and protections at the block visibility, the action level visibility, the global data restrictions, the data restriction. And I guess the last thing that I'll say is the actual page level visibility. And so if you go into the page level here, you go to visibility, you can also figure out who you want to be seeing this page at the page level.
Yeah, and Marie brings up a good question as well about kind of along this line is what happens when you have both global data restrictions and some conditional filters applied or some conditional visibility applied to something? Kind of, which one takes precedence? And actually, the software will actually tell you when global data restrictions are being applied to something already. So like if we were to go back and look at, the employee's tasks, or whatever, you would see actually on, kind of where those conditional filters are, you would see that software will tell you, hey, there are some data restrictions that are probably being applied to this block already. Um, but yeah, so global data restrictions kind of take precedence, and then anything else outside of that is just, additional logic on top of that.
Yep. Yep. Great job pointing that out. Another thing about Airtable just announced they're HIPAA compliant. Does software also support HIPAA standards? Um, I don't think we're there yet. Are we, Patrick?
No, we're not quite HIPAA compliant as a platform, like in terms of building and things. But since we don't store a lot of HIPAA sensitive data, The only thing that you need for your users is really just an email address. And also HIPAA compliance requires signing what's called a BAA. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. You have to forgive me on that, but it's basically an agreement, a business agreement saying that they're going to take certain precautions with data. And so as long as your data source is HIPAA compliant, a lot of times you can still build HIPAA compliant apps in Softr. It's just Softr as a platform, yet we don't actually provide or, promise HIPAA compliance in that way yet.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to head on over to our next app example. We're going to be showing you a client portal. All right. And so the client portal can be seen over here. And we're in the client portal database for the Airtable base now. And we have a new permission on this user that I want to show you. And it is right here. For these roles, we have the admin, the consultant, and the client. All right. And so this brings in kind of new complexity of like, okay, now I have a client and the client should only be able to see their own data, right? And so if the client has an invoice or the client has a project, we got to make sure they're really only seeing the project that belong to them. And then we have the consultant, the person that's working with us in a team capacity. Maybe they're managing multiple clients. And then we have the admin available to see everything. So maybe all invoices, be able to see all the clients, all the consultants, all that kind of stuff. So we have three different roles that all play a vital part in creating our permission system here. So if we head over to our client portal base, you can see that we already have our user group set up. All right. And then from there, we're going to go over to my projects. And let's see, actually, my projects. Do we have there we go. Projects. We'll go over to my projects here. And there's a couple things that we need to do in order to set up this My Projects table appropriately. The goal here is that this My Projects block is going to show the projects for either the client or the consultant. And then down here, all projects, this is showing the projects for the admin. Okay. So if we go over here to the My Projects, we need to add some conditional filters. And now we're going to create a conditional filter for the client and we're going to create a conditional filter for the consultant. And we're going to allow them to work together using an or condition. So let me show you exactly what I mean. So if they are clients, is any of, and we'll say, where am I missing here? This should be clients. Logged in user right here. Custom value client. There it is. So if the client for this belongs to the clients, no, that's not it. It should be logged in user. I'm looking for the clients here.
I think wait, I'm sorry. Go back to your Airtable base very quick.
Yeah, it's right
I can't remember what we had set up as.
client on. So this would be on the projects. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right here.
So, yeah, it should be I guess the logged in user's, name.
Yeah. Logged in users client right here, right?
Logged in users. Yeah, sorry, go back to the users table again
Yep. User
and go
table.
to and then scroll over to, do you have a client field? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
All right. So we're going here, but I'm looking for a what's this? This should be an it is any of is
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, includes any of or includes exactly maybe. Yeah.
okay. And then this should be around the email for the logged in user. It should be like the client actually here. It's not giving us the permissions, for example, for some reason. Let's see.
And yeah, so this is a list of projects and you only want to show the client projects, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. This should actually just display instead of their email, it should be yeah, also maybe update the block as well.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. All right. Get out of here.
And then we should have the ability to do their name here.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with the other one first. I'm gonna say the assignee email. belongs to the logged in user's email. All right. So that would be for the consultants right here.
Yeah.
Assigning is any of the email. So that would be for the consultant. And then for the actual clients, what we want them to be able to see is the record on here, the client, who it belongs to, should be the logged in user here in this way.
So I think I know why this, and this actually brings up a good point as well, and just kind of goes to show that like user setup is critically important as well. Probably because this is a template. I
Yeah.
think if you go to users, like a users tab over there, and then go to like you're going to edit the connection. Well, we have name there. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay, yeah, it seems like the normally you would have the option to kind of validate it against their name.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. The goal here that I'm trying to get at it is we need that for this my projects. This is allowing us to set up a view for either the consultant or the clients. All right. And then so we get into visibility here. Now we can also say that consultants and clients can see this. So this would be our block for these two user groups. And then down here in our all projects, this would also be for our admins. And we would open it up to allow admins to see everything. Okay. So that way we have this, it will only be seen by the client. If the client, the logged in user is the client of this project, they will see it. Or if they are assigned as an assigning email, they will see it that way. All right. Now, if we go over to our invoice pages, this is another very sensitive page, right? These invoices, we want to make sure that um, only the appropriate person is seen these invoices. We also want to make sure that the admin can see all invoices. So down in our all invoices view, we have all invoices. We have the visibility for admin set. All right. So that is a good update. That is a good uh, admin is set up well there. Now, if we get over here for my invoices, we're looking for something similar to before, where if we go into our conditional filters here, we want to have the clients is the clients. And there it is. That's exactly where it was. I don't know why I gave it to us there, but not the other way around. But that's what we're looking for here is my invoices. Client includes or is any of the clients. And in that sense, they will only see the invoices that belong to them. All right.
Yep. And I think, can you go back to the Airtable base very quickly?
Sure.
Let me see that one more
Oh, they got
time.
lost me in there. Come back here. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is I was just thinking about this as well. So I think the reason why it didn't show in the other is actually because clients is a separate table than our users. So like in the event that you would want your clients to actually log into the portal to see specific things, you'd probably want to make these users instead of just clients, right?
Mm,
If it's
yeah.
just a portal for consultants and they're just, it's internal and they're managing their clients and the clients themselves don't need to log in, then this works great. But if you're wanting them to be able to log in and only see their projects and that type of thing, then you would want to kind of maybe put them, in here. And we do have some clients in here, but I think it was just that list that was displaying um, was not showing the like the right connection to the client. See, this is connected to the client table instead of the users table. I think is the only
Gotcha.
difference.
All right. Well, we have the my invoices. We have this working up too. So now let's go into the data restriction level. Go to users, data restriction, and let's make it so the clients can only view the client's data. Okay. And so I'm going to add a restriction
Actually,
again.
can you switch back over to the software? Sorry,
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
distracted us from the thing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And so we're going to do this at the client level, I believe. Here we go. And so we're going to create a new view here, and it's going to be for clients. And we're going to say that the client's name is the logged in user's name. All right. And so this will allow us to make sure that whenever the client logs in, they're only seeing the data related to them. Right. They're not seeing any other projects, any other clients, anything like that. And this is happening at the global level. So even if one of our data restrictions on a block fails, this is going to protect us. Okay. There we go. So we have a lot of different tools that you can use at Softr to protect your users, whether it's the global data restrictions, which honestly should always be applied. I know a lot of folks haven't gotten around to applying it yet, but it is best practice to apply these to all of your applications. So if you haven't done this yet, what I would recommend to you is go back into your applications and say, what data should not be seen, right? And create those view only conditions. And then say, who cannot create data? Create those create only conditions. Who cannot delete data? Create those delete only conditions, etc. Right? That will make sure that no matter what, whether you missed a block or you haven't tested it fully or something new is added that you weren't aware of, you would still be protected with our global data restrictions, and you will keep your users' data safe and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, global data restrictions is like I'm super happy that that we implemented this because you know we had a lot of use cases as well where like people were needing to say you had a you wanted to add a task and you wanted to in the add task kind of form you wanted to assign it to a project. If you clicked the little drop down right that had all the projects in it for you to be able to select which one the task was assigned to, it would show all of the projects right regardless, and there was no way around it. Even if you had like lists that were filtered that way. But now with data restrictions, you can say like, yeah, only the people who, you know, when you're going to add a new task, you should only be able to add it to the projects that you're a part of, not to some other project. So,
Yeah, it's a really powerful feature. All of this is happening at the server level, which essentially means that if
mm,
someone is a whiz in Chrome tools or whatever, they still can access that data because the data is never leaving the server. So it's fully protected behind encrypted servers. So you can be uh, sleep good at night knowing that, hey, as long as you have your global data restrictions in place with
mm.
the proper user permissions, even if you forgot a block or you didn't update it or whatever, you're going to be safe because of this. So again, it's a new feature that we launched, I think, last month, and it is really, really important because of such. Any other questions here?
Yeah. So there's Miles asking a question here. Do I manage users in an outside table or inside Softr? Is that optional? Should I prefer one method over the other? I guess, yeah, maybe go like just touch base, JJ, on like how our users are set up and the user sync kind of that takes place, maybe.
Yeah. You might be able to speak to it more than I, but once we connect to our data source, the users within Airtable are brought in here, and we kind of keep it updated in that way. And so you can add a new magic link as simple as doing something like that. You can adjust user group. You can manage it here, but from what I experience, it's best practice to manage your users within your data source itself, and just to bring it in to software that way. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, I mean, the primary source for your users is definitely in the data source, and software is basically just syncing what you have in your data source to kind of bring those users in automatically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Any other
and then
questions that we have, feel free to put it in, even if it's not directly related to what we just talked about. We have a little bit of free time. Let us know how we can help you build your apps with Software.
yeah, so follow up question from Ma here. Do I manage my users on the app level? Can I use the same users on a different software apps? Yeah, you definitely can do that. We have, you can use the same Airtable base across multiple apps. And even pull in different bases to the same app. The one thing that you can't do is use multiple user tables with the same app, right? Your users need to come from one table per app. Um, but yeah, you can definitely use the same users across apps for sure.
For the Artem said, speed up Software load time. We were getting there. A couple weeks ago, we increased for apps using Airtable as a data source. We increased that speed by around 3x. But also, if you switch your authentication method away from the OAuth and into a PAT, you're able to increase that even more. Do you remember where you do that?
Yeah,
Patrick?
you can. So if I think you'll have to go back to the dashboard to do it.
Okay.
Um,
Let's see.
yeah, the little home, see, and then data sources over there on the left.
Okay.
And yeah, any OAuth, there's like a little blue. Wait, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can do it there as well. Yep. Switch it over
Yeah.
to personal
So
access.
if we switch this over to a personal access token, which we actually have to go into Airtable and give Softr permissions to do so, we're looking for these permissions. We anticipate around an 8x speed improvement as well that way with that data source. So there are a lot of ways that you can increase the speed of Airtable and Softr already. And then we're also adding a lot more data sources that are just faster than Airtable generally, with BigQuery launching soon and some other bigger data sources coming. um, Speed is definitely utmost priority, and the team's doing a lot to make sure that you have the fastest performance. Um, Go for it.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the personal access token is a really great way to do that. The speed is like it's very noticeable in my opinion, which is really cool.
Another thing that I wanted to hint at while we're into user permissions and what is our page rules. So not a lot of people might be using this as well, and it's another powerful feature that you can use to have users in certain situations go to certain pages. Right? And so in this case, we see that we have different permissions here. And so after they sign in, what page are they going to go to? In this page rules, you can show them exactly where they should go to, what pages they should go to as well, to make sure that they have a good experience for after sign in, after sign up, unauthorized access, all these kind of things. You can really dictate at that redirect page level where your users are going.
Yeah, I really like this feature as well. It used to be like in a different location, but I love that we have this like dedicated modal now for very easily, you know,
Yeah.
routing different users, after they take certain actions, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
So Andrew has a question on redirects right now. You want to bring them
Um,
on stage?
yeah. So actually, so he's asking, does redirect work for sign up in addition to sign in? Yeah, definitely. It definitely does. Ideally, a non-logged in user would click the action button to open a modal to sign in or sign up. Then upon their action, they would redirect regardless of sign in, sign up. Is there a template modal for sign in up, or am I able to create one? So there is a different, you can distinguish the redirect based on sign in or sign up, right? You may want to send someone who signs up to like an onboarding page as opposed to someone who's just signing in, right? They probably just need to be sent to their dashboard or something. And so, yeah, you can definitely create kind of the routing for those different actions that they're taking. Um, and then I will have several actions requiring this on my homepage. Perhaps I should create a sign in or up page for this question alone. Yeah, most people divide that up by buttons. They'll just put a sign in button or, a login sign in button and then a sign up button. And those can route to two different pages. That's usually the best way to do it, I would say. Hopefully I understood the question correctly, but let's see. Want non-logged in to click create a button, then have a modal to.
Sounds good, Andrew. Yeah. Feel free to post that in the community, and then we can kind of work through that
Yep.
uh, to help you with your use case better. The community, I linked it there in the chat. If you guys aren't already a member, please join. Patrick and I are there all day, every day. If you have any questions about your use case or things that you might be like, how should I build this? What's the best practice here? Does anyone have custom code to expand this functionality? That's a great place to contact us. We're always there helping out as much as possible. And if you get stuck just generally with your app of like, I need faster support or whatever, contact our support. We have best in class support. You can contact them uh, at any time in your applications by just going over here, chat with us and right here. You can access support. And we always have team members on. We're just about 24/7. And so you can get fast support in that way as well. But any other questions here before we work to wrap up this webinar? Really appreciate uh, or workshop. Really appreciate all of you guys for joining us today. If you have suggestions for events that we could do in the future that you would like, please let us know. If you're not a member of our community yet, let us know. There's a lot that we're doing on the community front to expand this to create a better place for you all to learn, to share your success, to find clients, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody, for joining. Hopefully, this session was helpful for you know uh, getting your feet wet with user groups and user permissions and visibility and restrictions and all that good stuff. Um, as JJ mentioned, please reach out if we can assist in any way.
Yeah, noon. Just for your question here, um, when you enable multiple filters, the default is and. That default is and. Um, but I believe you can change it to an and or an or, whatever is best for you and your use case there. So hopefully that helps to answer it on a single filter. Um,
Yeah.
you and
Oh, no, and I see what you're saying. So it depends on. Are you talking about conditional filters, or are you talking about the filters that a end user would use on the list? I'm assuming you're meaning the end users use. Um, yeah, end user. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, you are correct. It is an or filter. I don't know that cascading. What you're describing is kind of like a cascade filter. What we would call a cascade filter, that allows you to combine like and or conditions like in various capacities. We
uh,
don't currently have a plan to do that, but we've definitely heard that request before and kind of recognized the use case for that. The kind of a workaround for that, I would say, is a lot of people will either do multiple blocks or they will divide lists out onto multiple pages, right? Like select a project first, and then we can show you like a subset of those projects rather than like trying to combine a bunch of complicated filters. That's kind of the best answer that I've got for that one. Noon.
Gustavo, thanks for tuning in. We got another question here from Russell before we head out. Can you force a new user to set a password after they log in with a magic link? What do you think, Patrick? You could, maybe have some kind of user role, user permission where you essentially define this user group of, if a password is not yet set. Can you do it at the password level though? Um,
You can't, part of this, and this is something that we've heard quite a bit, right? Is that a user invitation flow is very restrictive at the moment. And so our product team is actually currently working on a better way for users that you add via data source or users that you add, right? They're not signing up for an app. You're essentially creating their user account for them and sending them like a one-time login kind of thing.
Mhm.
But when they log in, they need to set a new password. They've never had a password before. They need to set a new one. There's currently not really a good way to do that. One way that you can kind of do that is use the forgot password block, um, and just kind of prompt them in the email saying like, "Hey, after you log in, don't forget, go to your profile, reset your password." Right? You can
Could we
do that.
send them there with the page permissions or not really because you have to send all users there?
Yeah, not really because there's not really a good way yet to determine if a user has set a password for the
Gotcha.
first time, right? But this is a flow that we recognize that our users are wanting to implement, and we're actually working on kind of improving that type of user onboarding flow. So yeah, the best thing is to just kind of prompt them like, hey, don't forget, go to your profile, reset your password, or set a new password. Is kind of the best way to do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone from all over the world. It's always great to interact with you guys. As always, we're here to help you. If there's anything we can do, just let us know. Contact us in our community, our social media channels, our support channels. Let us know the events that you're looking for in the future. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in today. Really appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'm JJ. This is Patrick signing off for this time. See you next time, guys.
Thank you. See y'all.